Hello everyone, we are going to get into actual World War II now, and we're going to be talking about the European and the Pacific theater. So you have to remember, the beginning of the war, World War II started when Germany, with Hitler, invaded Poland. However, the United States, we did not enter the war. We were neutral at the beginning of the war. We didn't choose a side. That was until Japan, which is right here, attacked and bombed Pearl Harbor, which is this military base right here. So after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we officially enter World War II. And the United States, we have to make a decision because we have to either fight Germany in Europe or Japan in the Pacific, which Japan has all these tiny little islands. They're in China, they're in Asia, so Japan's all over. The United States, they decide that they need to defeat Germany and Hitler first. So at the beginning of the war, almost all of our resources go to Europe first. These are some of the political leaders of the European theater. And first, from the United States, we had Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was the president. And we also had Harry Truman. He was the vice president. Towards the end of the war, Franklin Roosevelt dies, then Harry Truman becomes president. Great Britain had Winston Churchill, and the Soviet Union had Joseph Stalin. So these were all political leaders of the European theater that were allies. Next, we have the military leaders of the European theater from the Allies. And the United States of America had General Dwight D. Eisenhower and General George C. Patton. And the political leaders of the European theater for the Axis powers were Adolf Hitler, who was from Germany, and Benito Mussolini, who was from Italy. So Hitler was from Germany, Benito Mussolini was from Italy. And here's the Allied strategy in the European theater. America and its allies, Britain and the Soviet Union, followed a defeat Hitler first strategy. So they wanted to defeat Hitler in Germany first. And most American resources were targeted for Europe. So all this means is the United States didn't want to fight Japan until it defeated Germany first. And this is the strategy of the Axis powers. And Germany hoped to defeat the Soviet Union quickly, gain control of Soviet oil fields, and force Britain out of the war through a bombing campaign and submarine warfare before America's industrial and military strength could turn the tide. So essentially, Germany wanted to defeat the Soviet Union and Britain before the United States could get involved. They knew that once the United States got involved, they didn't have a good chance of winning the war. So they wanted to hurry up and defeat the Soviet Union and Britain. And here are some of the major battles of the European Union. The first major battle is the Battle of Stalingrad. And this is known as the turning point of the war in Eastern Europe. The Soviet Union wins this war, and all these wars that we go over, the Allies win all of them. The Axis lose all these wars. But this was a turning point because the Soviet Union starts pushing Germany out. The second one is the Normandy landing on beaches in France. So Normandy is a part of France, and it's also known as D-Day, but that's when we invade France through the beaches in Normandy. Germany had already won against France. They took over France, so the United States, we came in and kicked Germany out. And this is the liberation of France from Nazi Germany. So Germany starts losing the war after this battle, and the liberation of Europe begins. And liberation, that just means like freedom. So people in Europe that were defeated by the Nazis, which is the Germans, they are now free because the United States and England, we came in and we kicked Germany out. And the last major battle in Europe was the Battle of the Bulge. And Germany is defeated in this war, leaving them unable to defend themselves. So this was like Germany's last chance. They tried to have they tried to win this battle, but they lost, and after this, they really didn't have an army. The European War was really over after the Battle of the Bulge. So now that Germany and Hitler are defeated, the United States now turns their focus to the Pacific. And it's called the Pacific because the fighting is going to be all along the Pacific Ocean. So let's go to the Pacific Theater. And following Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded the Philippines and Indonesia and planned to invade both Australia and Hawaii. And Japan's leaders hoped that America would accept Japanese predominance in Southeast Asia and the Pacific rather than conduct a bloody and costly war to reverse Japanese gains. So Japan, once again, they knew they couldn't defeat the United States, but they were hoping the United States wouldn't fight because it is going to be very, very costly to fight. The United States is going to lose a lot of lives. It's going to cost a lot of money. So that's what Japan was hoping. However, it didn't work because the United States, we do go in. And after defeating Germany in Europe, the U.S. began to focus on Japan in the Pacific. And the Pacific, American military strategy called for an island hopping campaign. And it's called an island hopping campaign because they're essentially going from island to island. Here's kind of like a map I'm going to pop up for you guys. But the U.S., we go to these islands and we kick out Japan. We go to this island and kick out Japan. We then go to this island. We then go to this island and this island and this island. So essentially, we're just hopping, which is like jumping. We're going from island to island to island, kicking out the Japanese. However, this is very, very costly. The United States is losing a lot of lives. Japan is losing a lot of lives. And just the financial money is even costing a lot. And the whole strategy was the U.S. would seize islands closer to Japan and use them as bases for air attacks on Japan. So when we have these islands, we can get airplanes on them and then we can bomb Japan. And the U.S. would also cut off Japanese supplies through submarine warfare against Japanese shipping. So if Japan was trying to bring in food or something into the country, like over here, the United States, we just put boats and submarines all around, and we destroyed anything that tried to get into Japan. And some of the key leaders of the Pacific Theater are the United States. We had General Douglas MacArthur, and Japan had Emperor Hirohito and Hideki Tojo. Those were the two leaders from Japan. And these are some of the major battles in the Pacific Theater. There was lots and lots of battles, but these are the major ones we're going to talk about. One was the Battle of Midway. Midway is an island in the Pacific, and which Japan originally had. Midway is a part of the United States, but the United States, we came in, kicked Japan out. Japan had 2,500 casualties, and the U.S. had 307. And a casualty doesn't mean a death. It's someone who was killed or was hurt in battle. So those were the casualties for that war. The Battle of Iwo Jima, Japan suffered 18,000 casualties, and the U.S. had 26,000 casualties. Next was the Battle of Okinawa, and in this battle, they believe 20,000 Americans died, and an estimated 100,000 Japanese were killed. And the other one was the bombing of Japan. And the United States, we just continually got bombs on our planes and we bombed Japan over and over again. And an estimated 75,000 to 20,000 Japanese were killed in the bombings. A lot of the bombings were done in Tokyo, but the bombing of Japan did cost a lot of life. So as you can see, all of these battles are very, very costly. And there were several more small battles as well. Because on all of these islands, Japan was had lots of military bases there. And Japan, they were told not to surrender. So Japanese people, they would fight until they died. They would even have Japanese pilots kill themselves on purpose and fly directly into American boats. So it was very difficult to win in Japan. So one thing that happens is the United States developed something called the atomic bomb. And the United States developed a type of bomb called an atomic bomb near the end of the war. And Truman, who was the president at the time, had to decide if the United States should continue island hopping and potentially losing millions of American lives, or dropping an atomic bomb on Japan. Truman decides to drop an atomic bomb on Japan. This is what an atomic bomb does. It's very, very destructive. And the first place we drop an atomic bomb is on Hiroshima. An atomic bomb is dropped on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and the city of Hiroshima was destroyed instantly, and over 100,000 people were killed. And although the bomb destroyed Hiroshima and killed lots of people, Japan still did not surrender. And this is what Hiroshima looked like before the atomic bomb was dropped. After it was dropped, it was destroyed. So Japan still doesn't surrender, so on August 9th, 1945, the United States dropped another atomic bomb on Japan, this time in the city of Nagasaki. And Nagasaki was destroyed and about 75,000 people were killed. And Japan finally surrenders after the atomic bomb on Nagasaki, officially ending World War II. So World War II is finally over, and this is what Nagasaki looked like after the bomb was dropped on it. Just a small part of the city. These bombs are huge. It would literally destroy all of Washington, D.C. if one was dropped on it. And so if you guys have any questions, let me know. And make sure you finish the rest of the work.